Welcome to another edition of Interruptions. I'm your host, Otis Smith. Today, I got a beautiful treat for you guys. We have Dr. Deanna Brown Thomas, the daughter of Mr. James Brown. We're talking about Soul Brother number one himself, the Godfather. I mean, he has so many names. The man that so incredible to the point that when you talk about a person who they say he didn't read music, but he produced his own music, it's kind of crazy. So we're here to talk to his daughter, Dr. Deanna Brown Thomas, about the life of her father and who her father was in her eyes. How you doing this evening?
Thank you so very much for having me. Doing well.
Thank you, thank you. See, you got your backdrop better than me. But uh,
Backdrop as well as my t-shirt. This was designed by my son. And
oh,
so we sell these through the James Brown Family Foundation, and the proceeds benefit music scholarships for young kids at James Brown Academy of Music pupils. So
oh, I got to
yeah,
get one of them because black is my favorite color. I got to get one of those.
all right. Go on to
Oh,
the website.
okay. I go to the website. I'll support it. I'll support it. Before I get started about your father, can you and I didn't have this as a question, but you just mentioned it. Can you tell everybody where the James Brown Foundation, about the James Brown Foundation and the museum and everything, where people can go and learn more about your father?
Sure. Thank you so very much for asking. I am president of the James Brown Family Foundation. My sister, Dr. Yama Brown, is the vice president. And we have started this foundation right after my father passed away because we knew that there were a lot of things charitable wise that we wanted to do, to continue to do, that he had always done. So we started the foundation, and we've been doing it ever since he passed away. He passed away Christmas Day 2006. So that next year we started it. During the holidays, we do turkey giveaways, the James Brown turkey giveaway, James Brown toy giveaway, and we've been doing that ever since then. So it's been over 17 years now. He started it back in 1991, so it's over 30 years that our family have been doing it
Okay.
in this area. And since he's passed away, I created the James Brown Academy of Music Pupils. We call
Okay.
it JAM, and that's an after school program and summer
Okay.
program where we teach kids how to play music and read music. And it's something my dad believed in because he didn't get that opportunity, but he had God's gifts. He had some gifts from God and talents from God that passed on. And so and he knew that, every child wasn't going to be that blessed, right?
Right.
So you can go learn it. So we've been doing that for over 12 years now, James Brown Academy of Music pupils. In the summertime, we do 6 weeks. And then also during the school year, we're after school, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday, every other Saturday. And then the James Brown Family Historical Tour. We do that. I am on the board of directors for the Augusta Museum of History here in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
And we have the largest exhibit, James Brown exhibit here. And our tour encompasses that. You take the
Okay.
tour, and if you go on our website, just Google James Brown Family Foundation, you go on our website and you book the tour. We do them every Saturday. And you will be able to see where my father grew up, where he went to school, where he had businesses, where we lived, and see Augusta for that matter, and as well as see the exhibit at the Augusta Museum of History.
Well,
So we
I live in Georgia, so okay.
we we have family reunions come through the summertime,
Okay.
groups come through. I mean, we've had people from all over the world do this tour because they want to know about that man right there.
That's amazing. I wanted to make sure I get that out before I started the interview because a lot of times people ask you, tell me about it, like 5 minutes left in the interview, and they're like, why do you do that? Get that out in the beginning. You know. Um,
Thank you very much.
no problem. Your father came up on one of my interviews. I was interviewing Bishop Mark Sharona, and we got to a point where we was talking about in the Bible where Peter asked Jesus, could he permit me to come out there and walk on the water, like you? and he mentioned how Peter was the only one willing to walk on that which is chaotic, unstable, because water is not stable. So your father and Nat King Cole came up because Bishop Mark Sharono talked about he met Natalie Cole, and he was telling her how, because he was a musician, he learned how to play piano, and he always wanted to learn how to play unscripted. Like he didn't want to, just want to freelance. And she started laughing, and she told him, she said, "My father didn't know how to read music." And it blew his mind because he was trying to copy something that somebody was freelancing. And so we had mentioned Nat King Cole and your father to say how they walked on water in a chaotic time that they were born in, that creativity, all that came about in an unstable time. And so that was so amazing. What I'll tell people, your father gave us Maceo Parker,
He gave you Bootsy Collins. He gave you
gave
so
up
many artists
Boosie.
that, I
Yeah.
mean, look, even the ones that he didn't actually create in on his stage, that copy that came afterwards, your Michael Jacksons, your Princes, your Ushers, your Chris Browns, all of these artists have something, and you're talking about an artist who had to stop going to school, a young man in the segregated South who had to stop going to school in the 7th grade. So there was no education situation there. You try to live and take care of yourself with a 7th grade education. Segregated South. Now you're talking about the most sampled artist still to this day.
I was going to go
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Uh, Classical music, people who write classical music, people who write jazz, gospel, I mean, all over, influenced by James Brown.
Matter of
I
fact,
went to I went to the reunion tour, and
uh-huh.
Kurt Franklin up there doing James Brown a whole lot and talking about some get
Yeah.
on up.
Well, even if you remember the what was the early 90s, John P. Key shouted out your father in the gospel song. He said James
Yeah,
Brown. He didn't, and I loved it because he didn't just kind of play the music that your father and then don't give him credit like he wasn't influenced by it. He said, James Brown, he was honoring your father. That,
yeah.
hey, even you influenced me as well. So
Even the Clark sisters, they were part of the reunion tour. They did
yes,
a little homage to Dad as well, and so it's in every, because it's just in music.
period.
Period. All kinds of music, rock and roll, all kinds of music. So when you can see that an artist like my dad, who comes from the humble beginnings, he come from very poor in the segregated South, and was able to rise to what he rose to, he was still very much the young man, the young guy who came, the young man who came out of the South, because when he would come home, he
Hmm.
sometimes jump in the car, ride around, and just kind of chill, doing his own thing. It wasn't always about jumping in a limousine and having the
Right.
limousine driver take him where he needed to go. Sometimes he'd get in the car himself and ride through the hood where he grew up, you know, and just, resonate with the people. And
I don't think you ever leave the where you grew up from. Even I still drive my kids and show them the house I grew up in, the neighborhood I grew. I think you can never get away from that. Good, bad, indifferent, it doesn't matter. You're always gonna come back to where you started
my
because
dad,
it's the foundation.
yeah, I mean, if you got sense, because you can go back and, you can still kind of get regroup, recharge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And refill, and Dad would always like to throw, when he was home from the road, put us in the van and ride on down in this country, show us where he grew up, where he would go out in the woods and play by himself as a young child, and talk about those types of things. And it was good therapy for him, because it made him not forget where he came
Came
from.
from. When you were growing up, I don't want to ask you what was it like growing up, because however you grew up, it was normal to you because that's how you grew up. I always hate that question. Like, what was it like growing up? It was normal. That's how they grew up. But what I wanted to know is, what was your childhood like with your father? Like your relationship with your father as a little girl, and and daddy got to go to work, and he's gone, and then he comes back. What was your relationship like with him? You and him one on one.
Dad loved to do fun stuff. Now it was stages, okay, because growing up as a young child was one thing as opposed to once you were a little older.
Right.
Um, but Dad was still strict. He wanted his kids to make sure that you ain't gonna just it's not gonna just be given to you. You gotta work. You gotta learn. You gotta go out here and experience life, and he did that. I mean, we of course had a different life than most.
Sure, sure, sure.
Of course. Yeah, we traveled, we did things. But I mean, for example, my dad would make me go out and water the lawn.
Okay. Okay.
That was my weekly duty. I get paid $3 a week. That was as a young child. I was about 8, 9. That's what I did. I'd go
Okay.
out and I water on. Not that he couldn't afford sprinklers or an irrigation system, but I'm gonna teach us some hard work, because that's hard work if you think about it for a while.
You just out
Standing out,
there with it. You just out with the water hose.
yeah, yeah, just with the straight water hose,
Uh-huh.
watering the lawn. Now, I mean, and we ain't talking about no 10 by 5 yard.
Mm-hmm. You got to get this area wet, then you got to walk over here, get this area, then you got to walk. And I'm sure in your head, like, once you just go on and just get somebody to
First of
handle
all,
it.
like he had yard people working.
Oh, see, that's
It
even
wasn't
worse.
it wasn't like I was his only labor.
Okay. Like,
But it was about teaching
right,
responsibility, and teaching the fact also too from his perspective is just
mm,
because I am your daddy and I am who I am. So I
right,
mean you won't have to go out and work.
right. I was just thinking from a child perspective, because when you're a kid, you looking around.
Oh yeah.
Like,
You like, why am I doing this? Exactly.
okay.
But with my dad, you can think that all you want to, but
Oh
you
no,
better
you're
not
not
open
gonna
your mouth.
say it. No, you're not gonna say it. No, no, you think it. And you better not think it out loud. You might want to think it quietly.
Very quiet. Like don't have no expression on your face that you think about it.
Okay, okay. Don't get it twisted now. The stage and all that, that's one thing, but don't I heard you say a lot of times, like, Papa didn't take no mess for real. Don't get it twisted now.
Real for real. He wrote the song. I straight up lived that thing. Because he was real, because he's like, y'all got it good. In his mind,
Hmm.
y'all got it good. I don't care how hard I make it on you, you still got it better than I had.
True, true, true. What would your dad do to make you laugh? Not in a sense of trying to make you laugh. It's just him being him. What would he do that was just every time he did it, you couldn't help but laugh?
I like your questions. They're good. So, um, um, dad know everything, right? So you
Uh-huh.
can't, right? So you just, even when he don't really know what he's talking about. He like,
Don't know
yes,
what he
sir.
do.
Oh Lord. So we was in the living room and he was working with one of the remotes. Actually,
Okay.
he was working with all the remotes that was out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so he was doing this and doing that. And I was like, Dad, that's you doing it wrong. That's what I said wrong. You doing it wrong. That's not the one that you use for that. I should have just said that's not the right remote. Use that remote. I
Right.
said you doing it wrong. What I say that for?
Oh Lord.
Don't insult your daddy. What is you talking about?
Ah!
Like, yes, sir. I wasn't trying to insult you. I'm trying to help,
I tried
show
to, I
you.
tried yeah.
But it's just funny because, every time he pick up the wrong remote, I laugh because I ain't gonna say nothing no more. I'm done
You gonna
with
say
it.
no more. I tried to tell you last time you jumped down my throat. I'm gonna just let you find out when you can't change the channel or the volume don't go up. I'm gonna let you find. Did he ever once he realized right? That it was the wrong remote or something. Did he then come back and look at you? Well, why you didn't tell me I had the wrong remote?
Come on now. That's like telling you right.
I just asked because I remember I tried to tell my dad something, and then when, like you said, they fuss at you, and then they go on to do it, then he's, well, why you let me just look like a fool, and then like you can't win, like you just can't win.
No, that's too much like saying you was right and I was wrong. No,
Nah, he ain't gonna do that. He ain't gonna do that. He ain't gonna do that. what what would your father do far as when he was trying to teach lessons, like, trying to come across for you life lessons that that you get and understand today, but back then, you're a child or kid growing up, and so what were some of the things he would try to do to, you know, come teach life lessons to you?
Dad had a loyalty on people that, sometimes to me, I guess because we live such now, it's such a cancel kind of
Mm-hmm.
society kind of thing, but his thing, he come from that day and time when it was you be loyal, you loyal with your people and you stick by, no matter, and that's us. That's the type of people that we are. And we go back to that. We got to wait from that,
Mm-hmm.
especially now with this cancel culture.
Right.
But it wasn't like that. You didn't get canceled. You might have went out to the barnyard. They might have had a meeting with you,
Oh yeah.
coming to meeting with you, but they ain't nobody cancel nobody. You still, and so his loyalty was something that I like. I got that. I don't know if I'll ever have that like you, Daddy. I understand it now more.
Mm-hmm.
But even in some situations, I'm like, he had a different type of spirit to be able um, to be that way with some people, even in a situation where I know where it's just all wrong. You know, he still show up in a different light.
Different.
And
Well, I look at that like, I always have to remember the era and the time he
oh,
grew up in,
oh
and
yeah, yeah,
and especially when it came to us as
yeah,
blacks, we were all that those era of men were always trying to give that second or third chance. Don't just put away. I always think back to growing up. You always had that person in grandmama or big mama house, whatever, instead of putting them in a mental institution or putting them in an old folks home or whatever, they were just in the back room because they don't put away their people. And like you
right,
said, we've gotten away from that. Now they hurry
right.
up trying to get rid of it.
Dad always went for the underdog because he was the underdog.
Gotcha.
He always went for the underdog because he was the underdog at one time. So he never forgot that. But again, like I mean, we just, it's the cancel culture now. We don't hold on. We don't revere our own people, be it in our family or
Right.
in our community. Because the village is a little strange now.
That's true.
You
That's true.
you gotta be careful with who around your house, who this, that, and other. The village is different.
Well, you remember at the family reunion now, they would always ask where them kids at. And then when they say where they was at, they always threw a relative name because they were trying to make sure he or she wasn't around them kids. And if they were around the
I
kid, everybody would
but
take off.
but again, you was looking out for both the kids and
Yeah,
that particular family member,
correct.
right? You
Yep,
wasn't throwing that family member away. You still had them around, but you just had to make sure that they wasn't around certain children or doing certain things. But you
correct.
didn't throw them away. You still had them around. You know. Hopefully, we'll come back to more family reunions. You know, so that we can
Man,
get to know one another, get to know
yes,
get to know one another, learn from one another.
yes,
No
yes.
more than just your family that you see, on the weekends or at Christmas.
The whole
You know,
family. You talking about
if,
the big family reunion?
yeah, I'm talking about those kinds, so that you know who your people are.
Yes, yes.
That's important. I seen a cousin yesterday. uh, Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on my father's side. And I want to get to know more because my father, our family name is not really Brown. Our
Mm-hmm.
family name is Gardner.
Okay.
And if you go and pick up autobiography of James Brown, the first one by Brian Tucker, you'll find it. My dad talks about that. My grandfather, Joe Brown, was really Joe Gardner, but because of his, when he was very young in those days, he was what you call one of those straight children.
Okay.
No parents, just and this was a woman who took in stray kids like that, black woman, and her last name was Brown. So that's where that last name came from. All the kids that she took care of back in those days. I'm talking about my grandfather, my father's father. Back in
Right.
those days, they had to take her name because she was feeding them and taking care of. So that's where the Brown came from.
That
But
was
I really
that
garden
was wasn't that depicted a little bit in the biopic in the movie? The
very little.
right, they touched on it's like it was a scene where your grandfather took your father to a house, and the that lady was saying, James Brown, you're going to be special, you're going to be this with, so you're talking about, right. I know they touched on it. I got a good memory, so I
You
saw they
gonna
touched on a little
that
bit.
that Octavia Spencer
Spencer
played the
played,
role
yes,
of
yes.
Aunt Honey.
Uh-huh,
Aunt
right.
Honey, and she was the one who said, you got the spirit in you,
Mm-hmm.
a special spirit. Yeah, and but the gardener, the name Brown is not us really. We are really gardeners. And so when I meet a gardener, especially down south, I get
Mm-hmm.
excited because I'm like, this is my cousin somewhere,
Somewhere.
in the family. This is my people. And to me, that's empowering when you can be around your people.
Of course, you always need to know where you come from, and the DNA that you have, far as why, because sometimes everybody in the family is a certain way just because of the DNA. It's not
And
it.
you might want to know why you
You
are a
might want
certain,
to know why. Yeah, you might want to know why.
and you might know who people you related to, so don't nobody marry nobody that they related to.
Okay, you hate to get to the reunion, and somebody tell me, yeah, I see you met your cousin. No, this is my husband. What? Oh, oh, ooh. Because you know the next little year, but you got to
But if you
know.
don't know, you don't know. But you gotta,
No,
you gotta go and you gotta know and you gotta exchange. I think that is so much power that we relinquish when we don't unify.
unify. You're correct. Uh, how would your father? And I'm not talking about far as the old spankings and stuff like that, but how would your father discipline his kids outside of the spanking? Because sometimes a parent can discipline you, and it may hurt just as much as the spanking did.
Well, uh dad's voice was enough to scare you. So,
Okay,
you know, if he pulled out the belt, I never got spanked by him, but he would scare me enough that he didn't have to. He didn't
gotcha.
have to do that. I remember one time he got a little upset with me because the back room, it wasn't me and my sister's bedroom, it was just another room, and I would play records in there. I love playing, music.
Hmm.
And I love Natalie Cole. And I don't
Okay,
know, maybe he just wasn't in the best moods that day, and he came home and stop, turn the music off, and I had a little sign up there said music room. He snatched it down. And he was like, you need to go lay down, go to sleep. I was like, okay, so um it's he was just he was still a daddy, you know, um to me, like you say, it was normal to me. To somebody else, it
that's
may
why
not.
my questions are different, because
Yeah,
I want people to understand, for your family, who he was as a father, because a lot of times they don't understand that I don't care what you do in your life, your kids don't see you as that. You
no,
because
no. All
because you
I
can
can say
do.
is
Go ahead.
daddy got his rollers in his hair. He ate cornflakes in the morning with bananas sliced up in it and whatnot. He was diabetic, and after a while, he had to change his diet. You know, he became he had diabetes, so he had to change his diet. You know, I mean, he was a regular. You know, it was it. You know, it's just certain things that to me was that's just seemed normal to me.
You ever
You
had
know,
cornflakes?
oh, he ate corn
No, no.
for
I
he
said you ever had cornflakes?
with banana sliced up.
No,
Yes, sir.
no.
Real
I was
good.
getting ready to. No, I was getting ready to say because if you ever had cornflakes, you got to put something in the cornflakes. You cannot eat cornflakes by itself. You got to put banana, sugar, some. You got to put something in the cornflakes. You cannot eat the corn. And you know I'm talking about the cornflake with the bird on it. With the it's just
Oh, yeah.
a plain box.
He did like frosted flakes, but when he
Okay,
found out he was diabetic, he
he
couldn't continue
couldn't.
those because
Right,
that's got way too much sugar.
right,
So
right.
he went with the regular Kellogg's and
Hmm.
just sliced up them bananas in there, to
Yeah.
help it out. Like you said,
Yeah, man, you cannot eat the cornflake pies. You gonna have to, and cause I remember doing that. My aunt always kept cornflakes, and you knew he was like, look, I'm gonna either have to sprinkle some sugar, or I'm gonna have to cut up the bananas to put. I gotta do
and both,
something.
both.
And both, yeah, yeah. So look, we here. I'm with you. I remember eating, and then I remember wondering, like, why does she have cornflakes? Like, why you don't have no frosting flakes? It's just anything but these
Sugar,
cornflakes.
way too much sugar. That frosted flakes, way too much sugar. And he had that's why he had to stop a lot of stuff, get off the
Sure,
stage, eat certain foods that he used to like. He had to stop eating those foods coming right off the stage, you know what I mean? You have to replenish, but there's certain things you have
sure.
to quit after sweating and all of that. But he was just putting the wrong thing in there, going to sleep, and sleeping on the wrong type of stuff. So he had to change all of that.
Wow. Do you think the movie uh was done right on your father? And I asked that from a perspective of as I was researching far as like looking at the interviews that you and your sister have done. The biopic wasn't out yet, and so of course it's been years since the biopic. But um, I thought, but this is just my opinion because I didn't know your father. I thought that Chadwick Boseman did a good job of trying to portray your father, but I wanted to know from you, not just portraying your father, but just his biopic period. Do you think it was done tastefully, I should say?
There was a lot, of course, that could have been put in, but
Hmm.
then, of course, then that makes for a very long movie. So you have to decide
Sure.
what goes in, what does not go, what doesn't go.
Hmm.
There's a lot in my dad's life. Even if there's no way in the world they would have been to put everything in.
Sure.
You know, couldn't even touch on everything. So there was a lot of stuff that was out that maybe should have been in, but again, with the sense of time and you dealing with biopics are never going to give you everything.
Right.
It just can't. I believe Chadwick Boseman did a great job. I love Chadwick. He was such a humble young man, and I believe that he brought all he could to the film. I believe all of the actors and actresses did very well. I teased with Chadwick and told him, I says, you should have got an Oscar just for all the splits you had to do, all those retake splits and stuff you had to do. You should have got an Oscar just for that. But he was a fine young man. He came and spent the whole weekend with us to learn about that and everything. So he wanted to know truth. You
Right.
know, when you under the pressure of the people that's got to write your check, and we wasn't the ones that was writing the check.
Right.
You you feel like, okay, I got to figure out a way to do this and be authentic to this man, be authentic to the fact that he's a black man, I'm a black man, but still, give these people what they want, you
Hmm.
know. And so, like I said, it was a lot that was not in that could have been in that was very important. But then again, you couldn't get everything in. So,
Because it was before. I think because one, it was before the New Edition biopic, where like if if you guys were doing it over now, let's say now, right after the New Edition biopic, you make it say, well, hey, let's maybe take the route they took because you could tell more because you're not trying to get, like you said, within a 2 hours, 2.5 hours. That's just it. We could go multiple nights and
Well, see, you're mixing things,
okay,
okay?
okay, go ahead.
The biopic with Chadwick Boseman was a
Mhm.
theatrical movie, and the
Well,
movie
that's what I
theater.
mean. But I just call it a biopic. Yeah, but the movie. I'm sorry.
So,
Hmm.
you know, that was a theatrical movie.
Right,
So there's
right.
different,
Yes.
okay? So
Hmm.
that's why. Now, there have been a documentary come out. There was an HBO documentary that came out called Mr. Dynamite: The
Yep.
Rise of James
Yep.
Brown. There is one that's there. There's been several in the past. The dad was, actually in.
Sure.
Um, Soul. Oh man, what was that? Soul.
Was Soul Brother number one?
No, I can't think. Soul. So anyway, but that was one.
Hmm.
So there's another one that's coming out on A&E very
Okay.
soon,
Okay.
like in very soon. So keep your ears and eyes out for that because it's coming
Okay.
out this year, very soon.
With the family, with you all.
Yeah, we'll be a part of it. Some of us are a part of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Because I always that's the best biopic, not just only the family, but you know how sometimes when they do documentaries and stuff, they don't never really get the family, in there. And so, but yeah, I did say biopic, but I meant the movie because even if it's a movie, I just say biopic if it's
Right.
supposed to be
So
about a
it's
person's
not
life.
the same, but a theatrical movie
Hmm.
and the even though it was a film and a movie
Hmm.
that New Edition did, it
Hmm.
was made for TV.
Well, no, I was saying, right, like what you just said, that if New Edition would have came out before your father's movie came out, I thought, like you were saying, because some things were left out because because it's a movie, edited time and all that could have been.
No, because this
Hmm.
is a thing that was really
Hmm.
uh, a situation way before my dad passed away. These
Right.
people had been talking
Okay.
to my dad for years about doing a movie on him.
Right.
So this was a theatrical movie was what it set out to be, and that's what it was going to be. It wasn't going to be anything for TV for two, three.
Okay.
No, it was
Okay.
set out from day one when they asked my dad about it years ago about doing a movie about his life.
Hmm.
Uh, so it was made. It was set out to be a movie, and that's what it was.
Okay. Okay. Um, some people. I'm gonna change my background again for this question. Uh,
Okay.
some people say that Michael and Prince are considered the greatest entertainers of all time. And I had a young guy that he passed on, Sahara Brinson, but I remember he asked me one time. He said people argue over Michael, they argue over Prince. And he asked me, he said, was James Brown really like that? And I said, and I want your thoughts on this, just your own thoughts. I said, how bad James Brown had to be to influence these two? How cold had James had to be to influence these two guys? Because they looked at him. So,
Right.
what what are your thoughts to see that Prince and Michael? I mean, when they did the Jacksons thing, they had to bring your name up. I mean, they had to bring your father name up. Like, hey, Michael was always like, "Hey, it's James Brown for me."
Right. Right. It's always gonna be there. I was with Janet recently when she was on tour, and she came through here, and I went by and I check that out and everything. And it's the picture that she used uh up there. One of the pictures that she used on her montage for on the opening.
Hmm.
It was with her and Dad and Reverend Sharpton and Michael. It's intertwined. It's just part of who it is, but it's like you say, that just goes to show how great and awesome that my father was for these people to be so good because they studied him, and they were two different in their own right.
Correct.
Prince and Michael were different in their own right,
Correct.
but it all came from the same source.
The
And
same.
they in their time, they became big. I mean, Michael was just, that's just it, right? That's just it, right? It ain't gonna, I don't think we're gonna get nobody no bigger than that, right?
Right.
At this point,
Right.
because it's a different industry. It's not the
Correct.
music industry like we saw growing up. It's not that anymore. So we're not gonna get a Michael.
That
It's not gonna happen.
I've,
I don't
I'm
I don't see it happening because the industry is not what
the
it
industry
was.
is different. People are different. The music doesn't sell the same. The and
And
that's
if
what
if you want to call some of it music, yeah.
somebody asked me I've got an interview I got to do next week, and I told them, I said, it's no disrespect to the person that I'm going to interview. I just told them, I said, I really don't listen to anything new. So a lot of times I don't know who's new unless something really, really catches me, because I end up going backwards. I go from my time back, because I look at the lyrics, I look at the originality. Much as I love hip hop, far as in my time, in my era, I had the pleasure to interview Paul Anthony from Full Force, and how they were instrumental of letting your dad know, like, hey, they sampling your stuff. They ain't get your permission with that. You got money on the table. Like, you gotta, come on, we got to go get that. And he was telling me a story how your father, of course, made sure, demanded respect, because it was all with Mr. Brown. Like, like, you coming in the studio telling me, hey, James. It's like, nah, Mr. Brown. But he said how he relished that they had an opportunity to work with your father in music, and just everybody, as you know, didn't get that opportunity. So
And they did it, and what they did became a hit. I'm Real became a hit.
well, my favorite was Static.
Static. I knew you were gonna say that. Don't start none, won't be none.
Won't be nothing. Oh,
That
I
was the
love it.
jam. It's funny because sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes that second or third song be the real jam, but Static was the
Static
jam.
was that, and because I remember the way I got really into your father is my cousin was playing football at Tuskegee, and so we used to get in the van with my dad. You remember back in the '80s, those old custom made vans,
Oh yeah,
and
my dad on, I know.
yeah, so every time we got in, we're going down the road to see him play. We James Brown. So Papa Got a Brand New Bag became my jam, because I started listening to the instrumental and the groove that it had, the guitar riff in it, and I was like, I started loving James Brown, and then I think he's underrated as far as vocally. He's underrated because when I saw him sing "It's a Man's World" live on TV, I said, "Oh, this dude can sing." Y'all are still stuck on the funk, which he brought to the
Right,
industry,
right.
right? And then,
But
I mean,
there's a real singer here. And see, that's the difference between, like you were talking about with Dad, Nat King Cole, and all those type of artists. First of all, I wasn't no auto tunes back then. There's so much auto tunes right now till it's like, first of all, they ain't really singing that song. And I was looking at an interview that musician Tony Williams talking about. He was like, popular music don't have the bridge no more. He was like, he was like, how can you imagine Maceo not being able to tell Jay Brown take it to the bridge, or they not going, or he not going to the bridge when Jay Brown say take it to the bridge? And so he was like, the music is just so synthetic, computerized, and don't touch the soul. That's the music that they're putting out. There's good music out there. There's great artists out there. We just don't. They don't get that
Correct.
mainstream.
You got to find them. It's like you got to dig. You got to really dig that, and I think that's why people also love Bruno Mars so much, because Bruno would go back. I think in one of his performances, not with Silk Sonic, but I think it was
Yeah,
one of his last albums. He was on stage, and they started giving him the James Brown sound, and he's letting you know where he's getting this from. He's
yeah.
he's he's paying homage.
But even Silk Sonic had a little. They had this song called what was that song? 777. Oh
Yeah,
man, that's so much James Brown in it. It ain't even crazy. Because they the Bootsy was producing it with them. So they had a
that's
little
right.
short
That's right.
had
Yeah, yeah.
some
Oh yeah. Well,
James
you
Brown
come on.
sound.
The you talk about Bootsy, and I remember an interview I saw, which goes back to your father. It wasn't Bootsy. It was George Clinton, and he said Bootsy brought what James created to Parliament. He said, all you got to do is listen to Flashlight. He said, listen to Bootsy's riff. Dum, 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 dum. He said, that's the one to the two to the three, back to the one. He said, James created that. So people, and that's when I started to let people know, like, well, how bad was James Brown? I said, because y'all not understanding what James created musically. They
He
would,
created a
yeah,
genre,
he created a
funk.
genre, the funk, but the funk, but the structure of it.
Oh yeah,
That,
well, when
yeah,
you create the genre, you create everything. What you put in it is what makes it what it is.
mm-hmm. And going back to what you said earlier, far as that your father didn't have the opportunity to, do musical education, and stuff
Right.
like that. So everything is by ear, by
Right.
feeling. That's
Right.
genius. You
He
can't.
played you've heard the story where if somebody just played the wrong note on stage, he'd go find them,
Oh yeah,
right?
you're getting fine. Oh,
Well,
you're getting fine.
man who can play every instrument on stage, but ain't go to school to learn that one of them. Did not know how to read music, but he could tell you how it's supposed to sound.
Now that's the funny part. What you just said. I'm gonna fine you for playing the wrong note. But I never went to school to know the note itself. But I'm gonna fine you for not playing the right. That's 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 only all you can say with that is God. That's all you. That's all you can say.
Right, because he knows what it's supposed to sound like, right?
Hmm.
He telling Maceo, he telling Boosie, he telling the band members, da 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 doom, da 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 da. Yo, he telling them what he want because it's in his head.
Let me. Well, I just have two more questions for you, but it's something in the movie I saw that made me love your father, and it's goes to what you said a little bit about loyalty, the time frame he was in. The part in the movie where they're celebrating him, when they just came out, with the, I think that was with the night train, when they did that concert, and his mother comes, and he's asking, why she there and all this other kind of stuff. But when he goes to and said, Bobby tells Bobby to make sure she has whatever she needs. That particular, scene with Chadwick Bowen, and because it spoke to something in me that the Bible talks about a lot, is, love your enemy, or pray for those that misuse you. That just that spirit inside of him that still said, that's my mother, just whatever she need to. That that just did something to me. That that
Honor
just
thy mother and thy father, and your days will be longer.
that just
That's the
did. Yeah. That. that just because, like you said, he had a not just a humble beginnings, but a hard growing up hard, and to do that when success is coming upon him, he's just getting started. Just made me. It just spoke to me. That's just the God in me, and that I think that was a fine example of of one of the one a fine example of who your father was at that time, and still a young man, coming into his own. And you know how we are sometimes as young people, we just getting started and our chest out and all that. And like you said, for him to do that was just something that spoke to
Right.
me.
So it is, yeah, yeah. Spirit was inside of him.
Yeah. Um, how did your relationship develop and change as you were becoming an adult with your father?
Well, I
Uh,
was able to go out on the road with him and travel. So that was the difference with me and my siblings, because I was able to go out on the road with him and travel with him and watch him at business, watch him at work, not necessarily always on the stage, but the
mhm,
work that it took before, way before you got the stage, and
mhm.
even after the stage, the work that is still called for. So that was my biggest blessing. I went to college, I did all of that, but my life's best teaching was being out on the road with my father, because I was able to learn the business from none other than the master, from none other than the man who knew it best.
That by you traveling on the road with him, right? That relationship being able to shift from just father and daughter to a friendship there, of you kind of understanding dad more, who dad is, not just dad, but what he does professionally, and kind of a different level of respect of just from
Oh,
the daughter.
definitely.
Yeah.
When I started working in radio, I became a fan, because it was just more than a daughter. It was like, okay, now I'm really getting into the music as a fan, with other fans. So definitely once I got into radio and broadcasting, I was able to see my father in a different light.
Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted, because a lot of times, the relationship, we grow in stages with our parents, and
Yes.
as
Oh,
as,
yeah.
as they shift, we shift.
Right. And as
Yeah,
we get older, we begin to understand
correct.
better, of course. Yes.
My final question for you is, what, knowing about your father, I'm talking about the fans, knowing about your father musically, and people trying to get a glimpse of who he was as a man, as a person. Um, did you like the title? And I'll explain where I'm coming from and ask the question. Did you like the title that was put on him, Soul Brother Number One? And the reason I asked that question is because, to me, it spoke to, in that time, in that era, and even going forward, that James Brown was black and unapologetically black. And Soul Brother, it's like you knew you was getting a black man when you dealt with James Brown. Did that always resonate with you? Far as I'm talking about that particular nickname for him.
I mean, well, you got to understand, I grew up with it. It's like that's normal to me. Like you said earlier, you answered
Okay.
your question before you asked the question. That's
Okay.
normal life for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything different. That's normal life for me, because that's what I grew up knowing. That's one of those titles. That's one of those things that described my father.
I mean, because
And
go ahead. I'm
he
sorry.
had, he had every, he had the songs to back it. He had the humanitarians, the civil rights, work. He had all of that, and BLM, that ain't nothing but say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. That's all, that comes from that. That all of that. Black Lives Matter came from all of that. It stemmed from all of that.
You
You
know the
think about it.
video. You know the video. I still laugh at, right? The video that they show of your father saying it. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Cause when you look, all the children around him white. You know what I'm saying? I said, this dude, he got the white children.
That was done at the Playboy Club in 1969. Matter of fact, it was done the day I was born, January 2nd,
Okay.
1969.
Okay.
Playboy Club. And it was at Hugh Hefner's, Playboy Club, Playboy Mansion.
Okay.
So the Asian, I think it was one or two black people in there, but yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you be like, I said, all right, go. I said, go ahead, James. You got. And I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing us, giving us some, insight of who your father was, your relationship to him, as far as you saw him in his eyes. And the thing that always resonated with me about your father, that he was so big that people didn't understand that when they was giving him his flowers, giving him lifetime achievement award, icon, whatever you want to call it, MJ himself had to show up. MJ said, "Ain't nowhere in the world we finna give him, a lifetime achievement award or anything, and I not be here. I'm coming." And put the cape on your dad. That's far as musically, icon. If people want to know originally who is the greatest entertainer of all time, MJ told you.
That's right.
So I appreciate you coming on the show, blessing us with your presence. Stay safe. I will post the link when I air the interview. I'll post the link of the foundation and everything out so people can go and check it out. And I'm gonna go in there and order me a T-shirt as well. So thank you, and
Thank,
Godspeed and God bless.
thank you so very much for having me. I do appreciate it. And I wish you and all of your viewers the best.
And we love you. Peace.